Quiet mornings to city lights. Every story earns its right. No filters, no favors, just the truth all day long. This is the pulse of Jonesboro.
Hello, and welcome to the Pulse of Jonesboro. I am Jeremy Terrell, and I am your host, and I thank you for tuning in today. It is another day of talking about city stars, the city, the mayor, and what took place at City Council this week. So I want to jump into it right now, and first I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you again, those that are listening, those that are watching. This is about you. This is you paying attention, your voice being heard. The growth of the Pulse of Jonesboro is unbelievable. Keep it up. Keep sharing. Keep liking. We're making a difference, and we have moved the needle, and we're going to continue to move the needle, and we've got some awesome things coming. So we're changing the studio up and getting new equipment and all kinds of good stuff. So that's because of you, and I appreciate you guys and love you guys. So let's jump into this. This week, City Council meeting was like no other, and I wanted to kind of break it down. It was, in my opinion, it was kind of a weird show of, I don't even know. It was just weird. It was a weird show. And I want to make this clear. I believe 100% that the City Council came in with all the intentions of voting for a vote of no confidence. Now, what happened is Chris Moore, who was, I believe, going to present that, and I think he's the senior councilman, was given an opinion by the Municipal League, the Arkansas Municipal League, and the city attorney. And that opinion was you cannot go into executive session and you cannot do any sort of disciplinary action to the mayor. And I get that. You know, it's all got to be done out in the open 100%. But I don't think that was what was going to happen. I do believe that they were going to come in and do a vote of no confidence in the public eye. I think that there was some conversation. Maybe I had heard some chatter from just different people around town that, you know, maybe there would be an executive session happen. And I think that was, everybody found out that couldn't happen. So it was going to be done in the meeting. But, you know, getting that opinion, I don't know what Chris, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he decided that in the midst of all that, I mean, the way that he set it up and being last, he was going to ask for a vote. That's my opinion. I don't know that for a fact, but that's just the way that it's set up and looked to be to me. Now, some city councilmen and women had an opportunity to talk. Some did, and we're going to cover that. And they had some great things to say. I think some others also were ready to say something when they had the opportunity to vote. And I think that they're probably a little bit aggravated that they didn't get that opportunity. So let's dive into what happened. First of all, you know, they go through the normal things of what was going on within the council and went to that. And then the mayor decided that he was going to come down and address the city council from the podium. So he comes down and he gives a, 5-10 minute, it was at least 10 minutes probably, brief of where he stood. So I don't mean to be laughing about this, but let me tell you something. Again, we do not take responsibility. And again, that's what his speech was. His speech was, I had nothing to do with this. This is about City Stars. City Stars, in his own words, let me find it here. In his own words, City Stars has full and exclusive authority on their money. That was his words. He also threw a ton of people under the bus, in my opinion. Listen, if other mayors before him were involved in the same thing and other directors before him were involved in the same thing, that they all need to be held accountable. But we're talking about the current situation right now at hand that's been going on. He is the current mayor. There has been things that have gone on, and we're going to outline them again because for some reason people want to exclude this. And I don't mean a whole lot of people, but I do mean the mayor and a couple of the people that have been defending him, which is, again, a very few. But I want to make it clear that he has been presented with this since 2023. That is almost 3 years. We're almost at the 3-year mark of when this first started. And he has said on different occasions, I bet he's paying himself, giggling about it, to my recollection of what the conversation was. So I want to get real detailed about this situation. And that is this. He gets down and he has a conversation to the city council, and he starts talking about, look it up. And that is, I don't even know what was happening. I don't get it. I don't understand it, why he went like that. But basically he was saying, hey, our agreement with City Stars which was way before me. So don't look at me because this was way before me, that City Stars is a separate entity. They get money, and they get to do with it what they want. And this has nothing to do with the city. That's what he said. And then he said, look it up. And then he said, hey, look it up. This is about Matt Malewski wanting to take over the soccer program and make a bunch of money. Now, did they present that last year? Absolutely. Do I agree with that? No, I don't agree that we should be giving anybody a ton of money at this point in time. I think we need to set back and look and regroup and really do what's best, do some serious research, and do not jump into anything until we figure all of this out. But that was such a minute amount of what Matt Modilewski presented. Matt Modilewski presented a ton of evidence that the mayor doesn't communicate, that he, with information, doesn't act, and pushes things down the road. He's a procrastinator. And there's some evidence there that the mayor gets stuff and then he doesn't. My opinion is when you get information and you do nothing with it, that's a lie. So let's keep that in the back because we're going to talk about some other lies. But that's what Matt did. He presented something, or many things, saying, Mayor, we brought this to your attention. Yes, we did, want to take it over because things weren't being ran correctly, which is correct. That is why we have an outsourced company running the new sports complex coming, because nobody has confidence in Jonesboro running Parks and Recs and all of that good stuff. Now, good luck to Jim Stearns. I wish him all the luck in the world, and I'm going to pray for him and hope that he gets this right and we move on and everything's perfect and he can regain the trust from the people that Parks and Rec is going to be ran correctly. So, he just started. There's no reason to throw anything at him right now. Let him roll. So good luck and prayers are with you, brother. But the mayor has known for a long time that Parks and Rec is not being ran right because people are frustrated. People don't come to tournaments. Tournaments aren't ran. There's all kinds of things that have been going on for the last 5 years that makes people really frustrated. And then so the mayor and his defenders, 2 of them, want to come in and point fingers at other people and say that this is revenge. Well, he points some fingers at some people, Matt and a couple of others, that are ridiculous. And he never, ever takes responsibility. Never. I don't ever hear him say the buck stops with me. I have never heard him say that. The buck stops with me. At the end of the day, I'm the one responsible. He doesn't. He always points fingers at other people, and he continually says, let's move forward. Well, Mr. Mayor, let me tell you something. We don't want to move forward until people are held accountable for taking taxpayers' money. Now, this is, people want to say other things and like say, point fingers again at anybody and everybody and be like, you don't, you've never made a mistake and you didn't do. Yeah. When we make mistakes, we all do. Every single person makes mistakes. But when we make mistakes, you pay the consequences, and you either deal with the mistakes or you don't deal with the mistakes. And then the mistakes get bigger and so forth and so on. And then, it becomes a snowball effect. And that's why some people's lives are in total shambles and other people's lives aren't, because they deal with the problems or they don't deal with the problems. Well, that's the current situation we have right now in the city. It's going to shambles because we don't deal with the problems. And there's a lot of them, and we are sick and tired of it. And we deserve better as a community that the mayor deals with the problems. Now, this is not the only problem, and I'll cover a couple of them, but this is one that has been a big eyesore now for a while, and the mayor did nothing. Now, LJ did an unbelievable job, in my opinion, of talking about the gaslighting. The mayor got up and I believe, and I don't really even like that word. It's a word that's made its way around, but there is truth to this word called gaslighting. And the mayor gets up and he's like, nothing to see here, Burger. You guys put this thing together, but there's nothing to see here. And I have no responsibility. So, and which is wrong. That's not correct. And I'm going to read something from, the law here in a minute, but there bears a lot of responsibility by the mayor and other people involved, and the city council. And I think that's why the city council is so frustrated, is because they do bear some of this burden, and they put faith in the mayor, and nothing got done. So LJ did a good job in basically saying that he has no trust in the mayor, and that all he's trying to do is just brush this under the rug and take zero responsibility. Then Joe Hefner, he got involved, and he gave his 2 cents. And I think there were some freaking wow moments in that one. And I want to go back real quick to one of the things that the mayor says, and he says it all the time, and he said it in his little 10-minute address to city council. And that was this. He ends it with saying, I will not change or hit my integrity, and I won't lie. So I won't change my integrity, and I won't lie. City Councilman Joe Hefner caught him in a lie and asked him about it. So he does lie, and he told the city council in early January, that he reached out to the members. He said a significant number of members of the Parks and Recs board. Well, Joe just happened to check up on that, which thank you, Joe. I appreciate that 100%, because that's what you guys should be doing, making sure when the mayor says something that he's being, that he's not lying, and he's telling the truth, that he's being honest about this. So Joe reaches out to these people on this committee and on this board, and guess what? He looks at the mayor and says, I reached out to 9 of them, and only one of them said that you contacted them. Only one. And, in my opinion, and I believe that this is the majority of everybody else's opinion, when you say I spoke with many of them, or a significant number of them, that is way more than one, way more than 2. It really is at best it's 50%. But when you say the significant number of them, I think the majority of them, like you should have reached out to maybe all of them, but you said you reached out to a significant number of them and talked to them. And Joe found out that that's not the case. You only talked to one. So that's a lie. The other things is you stood up there and you said, this is new to me as well. Now, this is at the end, when after everybody that had spoken on the city council, you said, let's not forget, this is also new to me. That's a lie, because this was brought up to you back in 2023. Now, let's completely take that there's an FBI investigation going on, okay? Just take it out of the equation. Someone came to you multiple times, and other people came to you, significant people within the city, and said, hey, I would like for you to look at what's going on within City Stars and the finances. And you said, yes, you would, and nothing ever happened. So again, that's another lie. So don't say that you don't lie. And in all honesty, that's an integrity issue. Here's another integrity issue. You went after people. You went after me. You went after Patty. You went after, and when I say you or indirectly you, went after me, Patty Lack, who is the most diligent person in our city that comes to city council meetings, posts what's going on. She's the most diligent person that we have, and you went after her. And me, you went after Matt Malewski. You went after Matt Daniels, which is ridiculous. This is the guy that was doing all the numbers and looked at it, and he was like, well, something's not right here. You know, to be honest, it probably started with him. Thank you. But you went after him, you know, one of the most well-respected families in all of Jonesboro. And then you went after Jerry Morgan, who, as LJ said, and I believe to be true as well, one of the most respected people in this town. He spends a tremendous amount of time and effort, unpaid, a tremendous amount of his own time to better Jonesboro. And do him and I always agree? Not by any stretch of the imagination, but I know where he stands, and that's the better Jonesboro. And you went after him. And he came to you on numerous occasions asking you to please look into things. And you didn't do it. And so now here we are, after you pushing this down the road and procrastinating and doing nothing. Now we have an investigation. Now we have a federal investigation going on within the City Stars and the Parks Department. Because guess what? He was a full-time employee. And I want to hit on what one of the councilmen said, and I think it was LJ. He says, he says City Stars is ran by city computers. It's ran by city trucks. It's ran by city equipment. It's ran by city fields. It's ran by city. You know, he listed a ton of stuff of what it's ran by city employees. And the only thing that it's not a city thing is the collection of money. So you keep passing the buck and saying that this has nothing to do with the city, and that, you know, he has all rights and privileges to do what he wants to because he's a 501c3, and, you know, nothing to see here and nothing to do with me. Well, Joe also let you know that in the bylaws of this, which were canceled, or which went out in, like, I think he said 14, maybe 12, somewhere in there. Let's just say 14 for, 2014. But it talks about checks and balances. It talks about having a review every year. And people came to you again, and you finally requested an audit, and you allowed Danny to do the audit on his own. And the results were obviously not correct results. And, you say, it was a clean audit and whatever. So, and this is nothing against the company that did the audit. I mean, they just, whatever they were given, that's what they did the audit on and whatever. So, I'm not going to get into anything with them, but it wasn't a clean audit. The FBI does not get involved in clean audits. In any entity that has clean audits, they don't get involved. They made a statement. This is not about kids. This is not about, it's about financials. So who bears the burden? So let me talk a little bit about this. Actually, I want to read something. Let me read this. A city is not automatically liable for the misuse of funds in grants to a 501c3 nonprofit, but its responsibility depends heavily on the grant agreement, due diligence, and monitoring procedures. So do we even have those? We gave $500,000 to a 501c3, do we even have a grant agreement? Did we do any diligence? Did we monitor? Do we even have monitoring procedures? Yes. Did we do them? No. While the nonprofit boards holds the primary fiduciary duty and legal responsibilities for misappropriation, the city may face legal, financial, and reputational consequences if it failed to properly monitor the funds. Key factors in city responsibilities. Grant terms and agreements. If a city grants funds, it often requires a contract specifically how that money must be used. Misuse by the nonprofit is a breach of that contract. If the city failed to include proper restrictions, its liability may be higher. Due diligence and monitoring. Cities are required to perform due diligence. If a city continues to fund a 501c3 after becoming aware of issues or fails to require regular, verifiable reporting, it could be deemed negligent. So let me say that again. If a city continues to fund a 501c3 after becoming aware of issues or fails to require regular, verifiable reporting, it could be deemed negligent. Pass-through versus direct contract. So this, in my opinion, this covers the grant money that was given or the donations given by Walmart that went to the trail system out at Craighead that went through City Stars. This has to do with parades going through City Stars, possibly even the E. Boone Watson Center, which I believe got money, and the City Stars may have even done some stuff at that level. Not 100% sure on that one, but I did hear something about that. So here's the pass-through versus direct contract. If city simply passes through state or federal money, the oversight requirements are strict, and the city may be liable to a higher government authorities for ensuring compliance. Legal action. The city typically has the right and often the duty to seek legal action to recover the stolen funds. So if we find out that through this investigation, when the indictment comes out that the money has been being stolen through this organization, are we going to try to recover those stolen funds? It's going to be interesting to find out where responsibilities actually lie. And there's a couple that talk about the 501c3 and the board, and they need to do their responsibility in giving stuff to the IRS and reporting things properly and so forth and so on. And I think that at some point in time, that board's going to be questioned if they haven't already. But here's where the city comes. So when the city can be held liable, negligence, failing to audit or monitor funds over a large amount, $200,000 or more. Improper controls. If city staff acts as director of the nonprofit, blurring the lines between government and the private charity, the city might be held vicariously liable. So that's a bad deal. And again, that didn't start with Cope, but it is in his hands now, and he should know these things. Actually, Carol should know these things. So, Carol, here you go. These are ways that we are liable, and these are serious ways that we are liable. And I can tell you from listening to the mayor, none of these are being done. And he, again, says that there's no responsibility, zero responsibility. I want to get back to Anthony Coleman, Dr. Anthony Coleman, who came in, and he basically said, hey, I'm looking at, what's going on, and I'm not saying that this is the man. I'm just saying that this is what he sees, and what he sees is that there is no trust, that he doesn't say that the buck stops here, that he doesn't take responsibility. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's what I got from what he said, is that there is no trust. And Joe Hafner said that. Joe Hafner said, Mayor, we can't trust you. You lied to us about saying that you talked to people when you didn't. Speaking of which, he did say in the last meeting or in his interview that he reached out to an organization and asked them if this was in their wheelhouse to do an audit, and he said that they said no, and I believe that was an executive audit that would be done by the state or something. And so I want to know if that was true. I want to know. I'd like to see the records. Can you please post them on something where you actually did reach out, in December and find out whether or not that was something that would result in an executive, or that would result in the state or somebody doing an audit. I want to know. I mean, we know you lied about some other things, so I'd like to know if you told the truth there. One of the big things, and I'm jumping around here, and I apologize, but one of the big things that also Joe Hefner said is that you don't give back to people, and that's a real concern. Like that's one of your number one things as mayor. You don't give back to people, and that's a big deal. It's a bad deal. I'm sure that these couple of people that came forward aren't the only ones. You know why I know? Because massive amount of comments on anything posted on this, on any platform, massive amount of comments are, I've tried to get a hold of the mayor. He never contacts me back. I've tried to get a hold of the mayor. He never contacts me back. There's a ton of that. And so you not answering or nobody answering within the city, getting back to people, that's a big problem. And again, that's a lack of confidence. That Joe referenced, that LJ referenced, that Dr. Coleman referenced. I know that some others really wanted to have the opportunity to address and say the things that they wanted to say, and maybe they'll have that opportunity. Chris asked a very important question, and this is the one that to me is, again, we are at this situation, and it's your fault, Mayor, because what happened was things were laid at your lap. People came to you and said, I believe we need to start doing things different. There's something wrong here. And you did nothing. You kicked this down the road for years and years. And now we are currently sitting in an investigation of a city employee taking money from taxpayers that entrusted you to do the right thing with it. And people came to you and you did nothing. You didn't do any oversight. You didn't make sure mechanisms were appropriate to make sure that things weren't happening nefariously. Yep, you can point the finger at your predecessors, and I agree. But you've been mayor now for 5 years. What have you done? It is your responsibility. I just read the responsibilities. If you're given $500,000 or between 200 and above, it's your responsibility to have oversight. It's your responsibility as the city manager to make sure that wherever we give our hard-earned taxpayers money, that it is going to be monitored, it's going to be appropriated correctly, and it's going to go to what it was supposed to. And you brag about certain things, and you say, what kills me is you say, nothing to see here, it wasn't our responsibility. And then you turn around and you say, this long-term relationship of working together with city stars in the city. You're right. Almost everybody on that board is a city employee or has been at some point in time. Everybody. And they all work for the city. Why on that board? The sports programs are ran by city employees. There's an interview that was done a couple of years ago where, and I'm going to briefly hit on Bill Campbell and this other guy that came up from Little Rock. But, Bill's the one that got fired for flipping off the camera, and got a picture of it at the city, the address of the city by the mayor last year. And he's a defender of the mayor, but, why are you defending something that needs to be looked at? You guys try to make it personal, and that's your attack. Your attack is all, this is personal. There's nothing to see here. This is personal. That's not true. I don't know the mayor, nor do I care I think he's a good husband. I mean, the husband and wife situation, they look like they support each other. But this ain't got nothing to do with him as a person. It only has to do with him as ability to be the mayor. And you're defending things that are not defensible. They brought a dude up from Little Rock to defend the mayor. This guy from Little Rock is a lobbyist. To my knowledge, this guy probably gets paid for doing this kind of things. And some of the things that he said weren't even true. Like he didn't even, I don't even, maybe people thought that was a great speech, but he didn't even cover the issues. Neither Bill nor this young man cover any real issues. There's a couple of defenders that are great people in our town. They defend away, like, tell about the man he is, and I get it. Go and do that, and I get it. But when it's all said and done, and maybe the indictment comes out, and we see that there's some massive negligence that went on there, then be okay to say that, yeah, my friend, that was negligent. And that's okay. People are going to make mistakes, but man, when you don't own up to them, when you point fingers at everybody else, and you pointed a lot of fingers, you hung every mayor before you under the bus, and every Parks and Rec director before Danny under the bus, every one of them. That's not what a leader does. We need a real leader. We need a leader that takes responsibilities. We need a leader that when problems happen and people want answers, you go and you look and you find out what those answers are. And then you say, yep, the buck stops at me. This is ridiculous. And we're going to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. That's not what you're doing. It's kind of like, with the events that go on within our city, the fight that happened downtown, you should have came out and said, this doesn't happen in our town, period. This is not acceptable. But you don't even say anything about it. It gets blamed on other people coming in from out of town. Well, okay. Well, we tell those people, if that's what you're going to do when you come into our town, you're not welcome here. If you're going to come and fight and riot and steal and all that stuff, you're not welcome here. We are a town of laws and order. Don't come in our town and do these things. Nobody says that. You don't take responsibility. The only thing you take responsibility for is ribbon cuttings and things like that. And half the time you didn't even approve of those things. Case in point, the sports complex. You're against that, and then it happens, and you want to take credit in your speech last year, and you're like, look at how we're moving forward. We got big old sidewalks that are massive that has made more people upset than ever even came close to making people happy. It's not even. I would say 99% of the people are scratching their heads on sidewalks. These massive ones. You didn't do it right. You didn't do it properly. You didn't put them in the right location. There's all kinds of things here. And you didn't take responsibilities for any of these actions. Mr. Mayor, this is all on you. Because we've laid it in your lap and you've done nothing. And now there's an investigation by the FBI. The FBI does not get involved unless they know something's going on. And everybody can say, well, innocent to proven guilty. And I completely agree. But I will say the FBI does not get involved. And their closing rate when they get involved is like 97.7%. And what happens when they're not is technicalities. That's it. It's never like the FBI wasn't right. At least not at the local level. I can guarantee you that. And so here we are, and we're in this situation because you were given information and you did nothing with it. And now we're in an investigation. And that's unacceptable. And I'll go ahead and say it. Mayor, it's probably time that you step down. I don't know how you get out of this. I believe when the indictment comes, it's going to be big. I believe that it'll, we're all going to be really upset at what has gone down. And yeah, it may go back for years and years before you. But we know without a shadow of a doubt that you were told that people are concerned years ago, and you kicked it down the curb. Had you not kicked it down the curb, the city would not be sitting in this position. You could have taken appropriate responses to this and appropriate measures, and we wouldn't be here. That's your negligence. 100%. Nobody else's. You can't point the finger at anybody else. So it's time for you to take responsibility. It's time for you to stand up and tell the people, yes, the buck stops with you, and do what's right. Guys, that's where I'm at. I appreciate you. I love you guys. You guys are doing awesome. We're having meetings. I can tell you, just be prepared, because the stories that are coming my way are crazy. And things are going on, and things are going to be exposed in this town that have been going on, and people have had enough. And that's because you guys have made a stance and are deciding that, you know what, enough's enough. And you guys have watched the videos, you've liked the videos, and you've shared these videos, and people are seeing it. And that's the Pulse of Jonesboro. That's the reason of the Pulse of Jonesboro, is to make sure that we are holding people accountable and that they are doing what's best for you and me. The citizens of our great and wonderful town need to be represented at the highest level. When it's you and me and our livelihood and our money and everything else that we give, and we're hoping and praying that our elected officials do what's responsible with that, all of that stuff, and then we find out it doesn't, people need to be held responsible. So I want to thank the city council, because a lot of them stepped up, and I know it was tough, but they decided that this is important, and that they're going to do what needs to be done. No, they can't discipline the mayor, but they absolutely 100%, which I believe was what was going to happen, do a vote of no confidence in this mayor. So it's going to be a next couple of months is going to be interesting. I hope in March we find out. It may be April, but I keep making predictions and I'm wrong on that one. But my gut feeling tells me that this is going to be big. And everything that I have done in the investigation of this, and everything that I've looked at, this is going to be big. It's going to be bigger than anything anybody has said, in my opinion. And we'll just have to see. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong in a lot of ways. I don't think I am, but I hope I am wrong. And, this is minor, and Danny's moved on, and, we'll be better for it. But I don't think that that's the case. So, guys, appreciate you. Love you. Thanks for tuning in. Like, share, get excited about what's coming, and we will see you next week.